What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. I appreciate you all the time. I got all the way out here to the creek and then realized that some of my hardware is not here with me. So the video is in my hand and it's going to be a little shaky this week. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me all the time, no matter what. Let's talk about it. This week is actually, maybe that's a little bit of form reflects content out here. We've got a week where there are some things that are going to be moving around and moving and shaking in some funny and interesting ways. We are not quite into eclipse season right now, but we are close. We've just seen a new moon in Virgo, and Virgo is the sign that the South Node is in right now. So this new moon in Virgo that happened yesterday was not an eclipse because it was far enough away from the nodes that no shadow was cast. But immediately after that, then the moon conjoins the South Node, and then is like we're working up toward the next the full moon, which is going to be an eclipse. And so we're kind of in that space anyway. One of the things that I think about eclipses a lot is they happen on either side of the zodiac, and so there's a kind of seesaw effect to it. And so they kind of like up and down, and they shift and change things in a back and forth kind of way. And so there is some dynamism to what we see happening this week, especially since early in the week we can also notice that. So as soon as the moon is in there with the South Node in Virgo, then we start to see some of this instability, right? And like the South Node is probably going to be around something like, excuse me, how's that for a shaky video? So the South Node is going to be associated with like getting rid of things and all that sort of stuff, which this has been that kind of weekend, at least for me. But then as the moon moves into Libra, then that is ruled by Venus, and Venus is moving into Leo this week. So Venus is moving out of Cancer and into Leo this week. This is interesting here. This looks like things are going to speed up in some kind of important way. I love Venus in Cancer. I think Venus in Cancer is a delightful placement, and has been hanging out with Jupiter there as well, which is just wonderful. It's gorgeous to have the two of them in the same spot, being so beneficent, all there together. This has been really good for magical opportunities, and for there have been a lot of good elections recently. And if you have been on my Patreon, then you know that I offer a report there every month where you can look at the times that are coming up and find some auspicious times to launch your product, or to go on your first date, or to send a risky text or email or something like that. There are times to do that and to get good outcomes, and times to avoid in order to avoid bad outcomes. All of that is available at patreon.com/ZamboniFunk. You can also find a bunch of helpful things like that at ZamboniFunk.com. If you want to learn how to elect things for your damn self, then there's a course on the fundamentals of astrology at ZamboniFunk.com. There you can just get a reading if you want. Also there's a bunch of cool stuff there. Music, there's a documentary about me, a whole bunch of cool stuff. Go check that out, ZamboniFunk.com. So the elections have been really cute with Jupiter and Venus in Cancer, but as we move forward here, then Venus is moving into Leo. And I actually like this a lot. I think that so Venus in Leo has a kind of flair, a kind of magnanimity to it that I think is really interesting and exciting and engaging in a way that will be fun here. So what's interesting about that is as soon as Venus moves into Leo, then we're going to see an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. We're going to see a sextile to Uranus in Gemini, and we're going to see a trine to Saturn in Aries. So all of that happens immediately. As soon as Venus moves into Leo, then we get a whole bunch of, so Saturn in Aries has been full of pressure recently. We've seen this opposition to Mars in Libra, and that has been, I've described that as gear grindy, as gas and brakes at the same time, as sort of indecision and pressure on the negotiation in some kind of way, or pressure on the etiquette, and feeling like you need to fight, but you have to do it in the realm of the courtroom or in the negotiating space rather than fisticuffs, right? So that's been going on here, and that continues to happen. And what we'll see this week is as the moon moves into Libra after Virgo, so we're still talking about early in the week, this is like Monday and Tuesday, the moon will move into Libra and immediately oppose Saturn and then move into a conjunction with Mars. And so that's going to bring all that gear grindy pressure back up. But with this Venus in Leo here, it looks like there's an angle on the situation that might be, you know, I almost hesitate to use the word performative, because performative makes it sound like it is fake in some kind of way, but fake and performative are not the same thing. Sometimes there is something about the performance that creates a little bit of buy-in in your audience, which then gives you something to work with. It gives you a little bit of leverage rhetorically. Like, it just gives you, sometimes you need somebody to suspend disbelief until you can show them that the thing that they thought was crazy is actually reasonable, right? And so Venus in Leo is going to be really good for creating that kind of buy-in, especially since, you know, you've got this Uranus and Gemini trying to Pluto in Aquarius. This is really good for future technology. This is really good for leveraging the moment, the particular moment that we're in right now. So we're headed into the future, right? But we have not arrived in the landscape, in the iRobot landscape or whatever, right? We are transitioning into that. And so because we're in this transition moment, there's a kind of leverage that we can exert that helps us to create whatever world we actually want. Like, helps us to create the next world. And if we are intentional about how we do that, then we can create a more beautiful world than we currently live in. We have that opportunity right now. And Venus in Leo is gonna give us some of this, like, a little bit of verve that it often takes to make a more beautiful world. So like sexier, fun, you know what I mean? A lot of time if you look at a moral or ethical lifestyle, then it feels less fun or profitable than you know, living dangerously and this kind of thing, right? And so Venus and Leo, you know, making these soft aspects to everything. We love to see a trine or a sextile in some kind of way. There is an opposition to that Pluto in Aquarius, which means that the Pluto, the horror of the future, the idea, the fear of the specter of what lies ahead and is yet unknown. There's a confrontation with that, right? But, you know, when I think about that kind of pressure, especially since there's this aspect to Saturn as well, there's a certain sense of, like, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so because we are faced with something that is kind of scary and difficult right now, in the idea space most especially, then that is a perfect breeding ground for a new idea or a set, I love a line of inquiry that could take us to a new place, that could take us to somewhere that is more beautiful yet. And I feel like Venus in Leo is very good for the kind of hope that requires. Now, there is a lot of pressure on that, and like I mentioned before, it's very dynamic with this week. There's a lot of changeable stuff that's happening, especially it's very front loaded this week. A lot happens early in the week, and then, you know, that pressure looks like it wants to resolve into something beautiful and useful. So get in there and do the damn